Your children are not your children. I'm Vivian Washington Filer. I grew up on Springhill. When you visit us here on Springhill, you're going to find a very warm community. Neighbors are friendly to neighbors. They carry on conversations about how to make the neighborhood better. They work toward that. Knowing what neighbors are supposed to do or will do for each other and how important it is to care for someone else is an overall general acceptance on Springhill. And I know everybody's actions aren't the same, but the overriding actions of everyone is that I will be neighborly. I really want everyone to know how we define Springhill, the parameters that we call Springhill. So if you think about it, if you start on Main Street and come eastward to Waldo Road, you will have our east-west corridor. In order to get the northwest corridor, you start at 4th Avenue and go over to 9th Avenue. It's not a very large area, but it defines Springhill. There are two different places that the Sweetwater Stream crosses. One of them is on 7th Avenue toward Waldo Road. And the other one is on A Street. And A Street would be the street that's leading up toward where the old police department used to be. When I grew up, the children in the neighborhood used to play at the Sweetwater Stream, and we called it the Branch. It still is thriving and alive there, and you'll be able to visit. Right now, the greenery is pretty nice around there as well. I think about the churches, because the churches are such an integral part of our neighborhood and who we are. That means that if you travel to Springhill to come to church, we count you in as a member of Springhill. Those churches are Mount Olive African Methodist Episcopal Church, which is celebrating its 137th year as an organized church in Gainesville. Most of that time has been on 8th Street where it currently sits. The other church is Greater Love and Faith, and it's in a building that's over near 10th Avenue. The original church there was Springhill Missionary Baptist Church. Another church is the 10th Avenue Church of Christ, and it is on 10th Avenue, as it says. That church has been here quite a while, probably 40 or 50 years. It has a thriving set of parishioners there. The fourth church is Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church. I think it's very interesting to know some history about that site. This is on the corner of Waldo Road and 7th Avenue. The big part is that there once was a store that we called the Tippin' Inn. The proprietor was a Mr. Davis, who belonged to our church. His little store carried candy and sodas and popcorn. The kids on their way to Williams Elementary School would stop there either with their lunch money before school or to spend their lunch money after school. The Davis family sold that plot of land to Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church, and they built their church there. So you see, we value the churches, we want their presence here, and it is known, and it is a great part of who we are in the neighborhood. When you travel around the community, you're going to find some very interesting places. You'll find homesteads that are highly valued and homesteads that are older and probably don't have the value as others. But the beauty of it is all people get along as neighbors. We don't take one person's ability to be loved are part of the neighborhood, are considered equal to the other. We don't consider things like that. But another piece of our history deals with Rosewood. And I'd like to point out that of the 6 families that were burned out in Rosewood, Florida during the Rosewood Massacre, one of those families was the Bradley family. One of the descendants, Mr. Bradley, lived across from Mount Olive Church. That house still stands. There is a family here that has been here for 5 generations. Some of them live on the same site and near the same house, and I believe one of them is in a house that has been here at least 4 generations. Housing, as we know it now, very few houses were rental, or very few apartments. They were basically family homes. Once some of the family homes were torn down from 9th Street and 5th Avenue, on that site now, there's a park, the Springhill Park. Once they tore those houses down, that plot of land was vacant. So the city decided to put in a retention pond there. And we were an organized neighborhood at the time, but we were not made aware that there would be a retention pond there. So when we found out that it had already been constructed, was sitting there, we went to the city and told them that that was not an acceptable thing for them to do to our neighborhood. They gave us an option of telling them what to do. We decided we would have a park there, we being the Springhill Neighborhood Association. I always like to tell people to make sure they realize that Depot Park is a part of Springhill. It actually sits at a triad of Black communities, Springhill, Sugar Hill, and Portis. It used to actually be a place where there was an oil company. We couldn't go down and clean up the oil that was debris there. And so the city decided to put a park there because there was nothing else to be done. I remember being on the original board that started to plan for Depot Park when all of the cleanup had to occur and we had to decide what to put there. The other thing is across the street from Depot Park was the old Beard's Hardware, B-A-I-R-D-S, Beard's Hardware, which is now Heartwood, and that also is a part of the Springhill neighborhood. Now, I really want to talk about my greatest love of this neighborhood, and that is the Cotton Club Museum and Culture Center. This is an important aspect of the history of Gainesville because in the 40s, when World War II started, the soldiers at Camp Blanding in Stark, Florida, had to build all of the buildings at the Army base, which was Camp Blanding. They cut the trees, milled the lumber, and built all the buildings. When the war ended and those buildings were sold away, the 2 brothers who owned the store on the corner of 8th Street and 7th Avenue were the Perriman brothers. They purchased one of the buildings and brought it to Gainesville. During that era, the government was selling those buildings for $1, but you just had to make sure that you could move it. The building was brought here to Gainesville, and there's a lot of history behind it, but eventually it was purchased by a lady whose name was Sarah McKnight, and she decided she wanted to have a big bands club, a place where big bands could come and entertain African Americans. You realize we're talking about Jim Crow and segregation, when big bands could not play in white clubs and could not live in white hotels, so they didn't have a place that they could sleep over and play around at several different places. Gainesville had a Black hotel. But this building now that we're calling the Cotton Club Museum was originally called the Cotton Club. Mrs. McKnight named it for the Cotton Club in Harlem. Through our doors, some very famous people came through and up to the stage, and those folk were James Brown, B.B. King, Ray Charles, Brooke Benton. All of them played on the stage that's still here. When my church purchased this property, mid-1900s, one of the things we canvassed the neighborhood about was what they wanted to see here. And they indicated that they wanted something educational, something that would bring some economy to the area, and we finally decided on a museum. We offer information about African American culture and history. We bring children over, we have entire schools sometimes that come, churches, the neighborhood. We're a rental facility, but we're an integral part of Gainesville, and we're so happy to be that and to offer this to the Springhill community. They love us around here. The neighbors keep close watch on everything. We've never had any incident that was negative. They keep such a watchful eye, so it's wonderful to live on Springhill. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and the daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but they are not from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. Your children are not your children. They are the sons and the daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but they are not from you. And though they are with you, they belong not to you. You can give them your love, but not your thoughts. Ooh, they have their own thoughts. They have their own thoughts. You can house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in a place of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You can strive to be like them, but you cannot make them just like you. Strive to be like them, but you cannot make them just like you. That's it.